wonderful thing about this is that we're able to speak to you from the other side of the world, and hopefully that you're not getting ready for bed just yet over there. We're bright and breezy, and hopefully you've had a good day. But it really is a pleasure and a privilege to be able to speak to you and to be invited to just share a few words and thoughts from myself and, of course, the gentleman here.
I do. So we've been asked, of course, to speak about the philosophy behind mediumship. And one of the things that a lot of people come to this world, as you know, come because they feel that they have an ability, and that part of them is eager to discover it. And yet you belong to a group of individuals who literally change the world. But before we can change the world, we have to change ourselves. What we mean by that in our tradition is to the return to ourselves. If you want to see outer change, you need that inner change, which is really what the philosophical backbone of who and what we are is. Not only do we seek to awaken individuals to their ability, but by doing so, moving those people who happen to cross their paths to awaken to far greater understanding their soul essence. And so the philosophy that is that pens what you are interested in is very, very important. But oftentimes we have to go through that excitement, if you like, of the magic of it. Because it is quite magical to think about it. You know, can you remember when you first got a message, or you first realized that something intuitive came to you and you recognized and it happened, what that feeling was, whether it be in a class or whether it be a personal experience somewhere? I'm sure all of you can in some way.
Yes, yes.
And so that excitement and enthusiasm opens the mind to a far greater understanding of who and what we are. And so I pose a thought to you about mediumship. And this is a gauge to maybe contemplate where you personally are at. If you were to, for instance, do mediumistic demonstrations and said the only way we can do them behind a curtain, no one can see you or know who you are, how many people would actually awaken their talent? And that includes ourselves. And this gauge that I pose to you is a gauge of where your eagerness or your need is at the moment. Your talent is greater than your need. And that is what that question is about. Because I think we would all agree that if we were to actually have all mediums stand behind a screen to give demonstrations, we certainly wouldn't have a lot of people discovering an ability unless they truly had the passion for it. So this links into your passion. And the philosophy challenges you, if you like, no matter what it is what's your passion? Is that discovery of the spirit and your talents within the spirit, whatever it is it a foundation of your passion? So I can't answer that for you, neither can Simon, but you need to answer that. Because when we find our passions, whether it is in mediumship or anything else, life becomes a little more colorful. And that's what we do as mediums, is we seek to bring color to the world in our ability. But the secret is that every passion and talent that an individual has, whether it is judged of worthiness or not in our society, has an ability to color the world, to bring light and brightness to it. So when we talk about the philosophical structure of what you and I are involved in, it reaches deep within the soul imagination of everyone that is breathing today. And for those of you in the audience who have this talent of seeking the spirit, this eagerness and this ability or this curiosity, I would suggest to you that you have an ability to awaken people. But again, I must remind us all, including myself constantly, that we need to awaken ourselves. We need to come back to the very return of self, which poses the next question: who are you?
So it's been great to speak with you. Have a good evening. One of the great difficulties today with mediumship is people are choosing to develop, if you will, without any understanding of what ultimately the purpose is. Because today, so many people that we meet are not afraid of death. So many people that we meet have some belief in an afterlife, but most people today are afraid of tomorrow or of what the future is going to bring. And as mediums, we can keep telling people literally day after day that the world is a great place, it's a wonderful place, you're here to experience, you're here to face your challenges and all of this stuff. But ultimately, if as human beings we don't understand the actual philosophy and the actual point of what we do, then all of it is just really interesting words. And you can go to 1,000 demonstrations and you can have so much information from the spirit world to say that you're doing a great job and that there is an afterlife. But if it doesn't move you, or you haven't been moved by the spirit, then it will just be words. And so Brian was talking about passion. And ultimately, the whole point of this work with the development of your spirit, and ultimately the ultimate point of talking to the dead, because if you can talk to the dead, then that's great. Or you've heard from the dead, that's great. But then what? Because what are we going to do with a bit before we die? That's the whole point of this. Because if we're constantly talking to another world and listening to another world, then we become deaf to this one. And if we're deaf to this world, then how are we going to move this world forward? And the problem today with a lot of mediumship training or misunderstanding is that it's focused always on tell me what to do. So I just want to ask all of you a question here. If you can put your hands up if you're stupid. Just, I mean, there may be one or two of you in there that are stupid. I don't know. Do you believe that you're not intelligent? Do you believe that you're not capable of making good decisions in your life? Because a lot of modern mediumship tells people that actually you don't have any answers. So we must ask that other world for those answers because they'll know what to do. Really? Why would they know any more than you? Are you not intelligent people? Have you not, each one of you in this room, and some of you we've met before, so we know a little bit of your stories. Some of you in that room have gone through the most amazing challenges and difficulties. Who got you through those? The answer is you did. We can give you as many messages as you like, but ultimately it was you, your soul, in conjunction with the knowledge of who you are that moved you through. Now, are you going to make another mistake before you die? I really hope so. Yeah. Because I will. It's practically a lifestyle for me. So, because that's the point of being alive. And yet we so undervalue our own intelligence, decision-making, and our own spiritual intelligence, that we constantly believe that that other world of the spirit has all of the answers. But in fact, it doesn't. And also, it doesn't want to provide us with the answers because it devalues us. So many people today constantly are asking their guardian angel, their spirit guide, other people to give them the best philosophy, the best choices, the best answers. Now, as soon as we do that, we take away the abilities that the divine has given us. And automatically we go, well, I'm not worthy, or I am too unintelligent to make the decisions for myself, for my loved ones, for my family, for my children, for all of these things. And so we've almost taken away our responsibility and hand it over to the spirit world to go, look, I don't really know what to do in my life. You tell me what to do. And the spirit world is going, stop keep asking us what to do. You've got all of the answers. But what you have to do is believe that. And that's the wonderful thing about this philosophy, because it's not about taking away your responsibility and giving it to some other world, but rather surrendering so that other world can constantly remind you of how brave you are, how intelligent you are, how beautiful you are, and how important it is that you are in this world. Because within this philosophy that we follow and that we teach, this world is imperfect without you being present within it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sure there's a number of you in this room that go, well, that's a nice idea, but I don't quite believe that, because the world can probably function quite happily without me. Really? Because if that's the case, then you must actually not believe that the divine has placed you in this world for a reason, which it has. Now, what that reason is 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000 reasons. But the most important point is that you are here. And the philosophy of the spirit, the philosophy of mediumship, is not tell me what to do, but rather, I'm here. Now, what do I need to do? How do I need to express my soul? What's my passion? So just an example, just before I hand back to Brian here, the sanctuary that we run, the Inner Quest Center, we've got a community, and obviously you've got a community there, which is great. And our community is built not on a group of mediums in the sense of that everybody is demonstrating life after death. But we've got a community that we have encouraged to demonstrate life before death, meaning that they live, that they actually make choices on their passion. An example I want to just share with you briefly is that we have she's a dear friend of the sanctuary now. She came to the sanctuary a good 15 years ago, and she'd lost her son in a tragic accident. And she was destroyed, because how on earth do you survive living with the loss of a child? And as some of you know of this. Now, we could have said to her, come to classes and we'll make you a medium. And things will be so much better. But what we did and what she did is that she came to a place where she could grieve the loss of her son. And she will continue to grieve, because that's what we do. But the important point here is that the grief became a part of her life, not the whole of her life, but a part of her life. But what we did, and obviously with her choices, is that we helped to awaken her mediumship, not to talk to another world, but rather to allow her soul to speak to her. Because that's what mediumship is. It's the ability to listen, not to talk, but to listen. So now, fast forward 15 years or so, and her passion for art has awakened. Now, she's not become a sparkist. She's created a business of her art, and she now is artist in residence at one of the big hotels here in Victoria. And she now travels the world in teaching art. Now that's mediumship. That is mediumship. Now, many people would go, well, how can that be mediumship? Because she's not talking to the dead, nobody's talking to her, she's not in touch with any kind of spirituality, or there's no movement. Of course there is. Because she has awakened her soul, and her passion is her art. And the amount of people that she has come into contact with, that she is able to share her story in a way that's appropriate for her. But she has become alive to her passion. And that's wonderful. Now, does she still miss her son? Of course she does. Will she grieve him till the day she meets him again? Of course. But what the most amazing thing about her is that she is alive to her passion. And she produces these most amazing works of art. And that is mediumship. Mediumship is ultimately about awakening to who you are. Yes, in some instances, in listening to the voices of that other world. But there's no point in being able to listen to the voice of another world if you cannot first listen to the voice of your own world.
And that's one of the things that we would be encouraging you, all of you who have a talent where you sense those from the other side, because it's the understanding that everybody has that soulful connection within their very being to the divinity that they are. And so what we do and what you do, for those of you who do it, is to actually be that ray of light in the darkness that pierces and can pierce grief for an awakening to the return of who they are. Now, she had this talent obviously long before we met her. She just never used it. And one of the reasons why she never used it is because everybody around her said it was of no value. She came from a family parenting that said things like this are useless. She was married and she had very little support at the start of following any type of career, let alone her artistic talent. And so from her great loss of her child and to the point of that movement into a community, we saw her awaken the talents and the passions that were already there. She did that herself through the willingness of discovery of who she is. So when we say to you, who are you? You are far more than what everybody has said that you are and will ever be. Now, we can say that to you, and you may want to believe that, but I will suggest to you, you need to know that. And if you don't know that, then what is it going to take to know that? Because it is in the knowing of the discovery of the return to who you are, moves not only you forward, but others forward. And oftentimes what we are confronted with is the human animal is our fear. And many of you have met us before, and I will repeat this and offer it to those who have not yet met us in person or been with us, is fear only lives in the future. Fear cannot live in the present nor in the past. And oftentimes we fear the very talent and the abilities of who and what we are, because the outer world has told us that we're not, or it is of little value, which often creates struggles of low self-esteem, frustration, anger, self-loathing, and the list goes on and on. But when I say to you that fear is and lives in the future, I will give you this example. For any of you who, for instance, may fear heights, you fear heights until you have to get in front of a ladder, and that fear of going up the ladder. But once you're up the ladder and on the roof, then you're afraid that you're on the roof and you may fall. And once you fall, then you're afraid what your injuries are. Your fear is always in the future, you see. It is always something that may happen. And oftentimes, when it comes to talent and passions and the awakened state of soul consciousness, it brings us to that point where we fear that somebody may not embrace us. Somebody may not like the very nature of who and what we are. And yet I suggest to you that the medium's path is to awaken and redevelop the trust of that divine consciousness, that cosmic consciousness that is creation, the creator that created you. You are the creator's creation. And I don't know about you, but I think that the creator is wise. I believe that, and I know it for myself to be true. I have yet to meet a wise individual to the level of a wise creator. So you can either choose to empower and strengthen an opinion of another person about who and what you are, or you can trust or redevelop that trust of the wisdom of the creator that created you. What's it going to be? And if you decide that you're going to reawaken and trust the creator that created you, and then the challenge begins. And that's what mediumship really does. That's what the talents of the soul do, is it returns us to the beauty of the nature of who you are. And as long as you're believing the outside world that you're not beautiful, that your talents aren't of worth, that you need to put up with or stand for or participate in things that aren't true to you, then what often comes in that effect is a very challenging life. In the wisdom of the creator has created billions of us. And in that wisdom, we have wonderful people who irritate us and make us angry and upset us and reject us. All in the reality to stand up in something that you already have. You just need to allow it to be in your consciousness, is your strength. Because in front of me on this screen, in front of us, is strong people. And why I can say that is you're still at the moment sitting, but you're still standing. Each and every one of you in this room has gone through challenges that are personal, that were difficult within your own consciousness, within your own ability. They're different from the person sitting next to you. But that does not mean that they weren't of a worthy challenge and struggle. The only unworthy challenge and struggle is when we surrender to it. And I don't see anybody in this room that actually has surrendered to a challenge, because you're still here. And you're still doing your best to survive. You know, for many years in sort of the modern movement of spirituality, there was a thing called the pursuit of happiness, which was one big lie. It's just a lie. And some people don't like us talking about this part, but really, we've got to put it into the reality. And the reality is this, that happiness is fluid, like water. Happiness can only be understood when we've been unhappy. Joy can only be understood in the moments of joy when we've had sorrow. Love can only be understood when there has been separation, death, grief. And so I bring this idea of light and shadow, day and night, to you who pursue the Spirit, and allow the wisdom of the Creator to be within your thought of that the Creator was wise because the Creator created every emotion, including that which we perceive as pain, as anger, of jealousy, of lust, of love, of laughter, of tears, and of joy. The Creator is wise because from the light and the darkness of human consciousness, we awaken to the pursuits of our beauty, you see. That's amazing, really. And in that, we have the opportunity of maximizing our joy and minimizing our suffering. Minimizing our suffering is a choice, you see. Many of you have heard us say, pain is inevitable. Pain will always come to you, whether it be the body with a condition, whether it be the outside world, whether it be another individual who comes into your life who hurts you emotionally or mentally or physically. It will happen. You have no control over that. But what you have control over is the length of your suffering. Because, and how we minimize the suffering is to heal. And that's what mediums encourage. Because when we heal, we do something amazing. We take that life experience and turn it into wisdom. And wisdom is something that I will suggest to you that you have in abundance when you allow yourself to awaken to it. It is waiting for you. And that doorway of consciousness of wisdom only needs that ability and acceptance and movement to heal, to the return to your nature. Because whether it was teachers at school or peers or family who gave you the belief that you were of little worth, who you're going to trust, the Creator or them. Just as we gave the example of the artist in residence in our center, you too have abilities that have great worth. And you may find out that it isn't just talking to the dead. It may be other things that this world needs, you see. For you are wise beyond measure. And the wisdom is from the experiences that you've had, that you've healed.
And the problem is, and all the challenges with what people think mediumship is that actually it's just a tiny, tiny portion of really what mediumship, from the whole of it, is really all about. Because one of the things I just want to just get you to think about as well is, what is the point of talking to that other world? Because once they've spoken to you and you know that one day you'll meet them again, what are you going to do with the bit that's left over before you meet them again? Are you just going to spend the rest of your life talking to them? Because if that's what's going to happen, then people have misunderstood the point of what we do. Because it's not about providing evidence of life after death, because ultimately nobody can do that. Because let's be honest, and I know some of you are working mediums there. If we really gave evidence from a scientific, empirical point of view, do you think that the world would be a different place by now?
Yes.
Well, you would think, wouldn't you? Because if there was definite scientific evidence to say that we continue after death, then the world would be completely different. And yet it appears to be pretty much the way it's always been.
Mm-hmm.
So all we can do as mediums is give an experience of another world, just a glimpse, that the person who is receiving that communication can take for their own personal proof. Not my proof, not Brian's proof, not the person sat next to you, but your own proof. Because that's all we can ever do. Because that's all that was ever meant. Because ultimately, our job is to touch a soul one after another after another. It's not to convert the world. It's not to convert anybody. It's to move the world. And it's to move you. And so once the contact has been made from that other world, and you know that there is another life after this, then what are you doing now? What are you going to do tomorrow, or the next day, or the next day, or the next 10 years? What are you going to fill your life with? Is it just going to be, well, I'm just waiting to get through this time till I see them again? Because if you do that, then you've wasted this most amazing experience called life. But if you've actually been touched by them, and that actually you've inspired them, then perhaps you're going to do something that is far more important than giving evidence of life after death. What you're going to do is actually give evidence of life before death. Because how many of you in this room think about the evidence of your life before death? Because you know, to the people that love you in that other world, you may just be a belief. They may have heard that there's a life before death, but they want evidence. So what evidence can you give them of that you're alive?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? What memories are you creating for them to believe that you're just not a figment of their imagination? What are you doing now to prove to them that you're just not in some strange place, that nothing really happens, but rather actually you're creating memories, experiences, that they can see that you're alive, not existing, but that you're alive. That actually you're providing evidence to them of life before death. Because that's what mediumship's about. Because if all that it was about was just constantly waiting for the spirit world to tell us what to do, there's really no point in being here. Because we were just born to ask somebody else what to do. Now, the funny thing is that we've been doing this for a long time now. And I have never yet met in all my years of working one person that likes to be told what to do by anybody else. And I don't think anybody in that room is like that.
No.
We've worked in the Netherlands. We know what you're like. So I don't think that there's anybody there. So that being the case, why do you wait for that other world to tell you what to do? Instead, why don't you allow yourself to understand that mediumship is actively being you as the medium? Now, as I say, we've worked in the Netherlands. You've got a beautiful country. You live in a fantastic place in the world. And in so many places around the world, people go, well, I want to be a medium and I also want to be a trance medium. Because if I'm a trance medium, then I can just blank out and then this other intelligence will tell me what to do and give me the most beautiful, amazing words of the Spirit. And that'll be wonderful. Well, yeah, that's okay. You can do that. But you know, have you ever thought of being a trance medium for your own soul? Why don't you develop your mediumship so that your soul can speak? Never mind worrying about speaking with the voice of someone far more spiritually evolved than you. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you could be the medium for your own voice in this world? Wouldn't that be wonderful? Because we've met so many people who never let their own voice speak. And the history of spiritualism, interestingly enough, always was at the pioneering front of helping people find their voice, and women in particular, as I'm sure you know, because you've attended many, many talks, that spiritualism was at the forefront of the emancipation, the forefront of women's rights, and allowing women to find a voice. And there are many places in the world today that still women don't have a voice. But whatever gender that you are, spiritualism and mediumship in particular, the tradition of mediumship that certainly Brian and I come from and teach, is allowing you to have your voice, to allow your soul to speak, so that your voice can be heard in this world. And so by all means, you know, develop your mediumship to hear the voice of the Spirit, speak with the voice of the Spirit. That's wonderful. That's an aspect of what we do. Absolutely, certainly. But it's really just like at the 1/10 of the iceberg that sticks above the ocean. The rest of what we do as mediumship is helping you to be the channel of your soul, the medium for your voice. Because the Creator gave you this life so that your soul can express itself, so that actually it can be sad at times, it can have times of happiness, it can have times of confusion, it can have times of challenge. Many of you were sent in this world just to irritate your family. What a gift. Because you know, if you're irritated either by someone or you're irritating someone, you definitely know that you're alive. You definitely know that you're here. And that's what mediumship is about. Yes, of course, evidential mediumship is about reminding us that there is something beyond this life, but it is not to the exclusion of denying this life. This life is not a dress rehearsal for a better show to come. This is the best show. This is it. This is the theater, if you will, that you are in. So what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with this amazing power, this knowledge that you have, with this life that you've got, so that you can give evidence of life before death?
Because any talent that you have, and as we're speaking to those of you and all of you participating in different levels of mediumship, it is a pathway to your own peace. your ability to awaken that talent and reawaken others calls for us to be in that seat of peace of our own being, which, again, I will remind you, calls for us to heal. And as long as we're waiting because of our neediness to be loved by those who we give something to, then we will always seek that addiction, because we still believe in our lack of worth versus our worth. And the worth that you have as mediums is needed today just as much as it was needed many years ago. So when we've been asked to share with you the philosophical parts of the philosophical structure that is ancient within our tradition, it really is in that foundation of knowing self. And mediumship in itself, in the form that we practice, mostly that people come to and have seen us and also come to some of you, it takes in its integrity for you to know yourself. It is always within our understanding as mediums that every form of mediumship is an awakening to heal. All forms of mediumship, understood properly, is healing. Done in a healthy way is healing. And it is that healing of the consciousness of the spirit that we seek. For those of you who were maybe still very eager and maybe there's a need to be seen, we will ask you just to begin to see yourself, to ask the question, who are you? To remember what the Creator has created, and that no matter what anybody around you, if you're seeking their acceptance, thinks, your talent, whether it be in this aspect of mediumship or another soulful expression, is of great value to this world. Because when we walk our walk, we move people in integrity. Because we become an aspect of integrity, of honesty, of nature. We reclaim back who we are. And at the moment, as we have had good fortune of traveling the world, and sometimes we're asked whether mediumship still has its purpose. Our answer is yes, but not necessarily the industry of mediumship, but rather the purity of mediumship. And the purity of mediumship, as I will emphasize again, belongs to the core of your soul that hosts that beauty that seeks to blossom. And in that blossoming beauty, empowers people, gives permission to people to blossom as well. It cannot be done unless we are willing to go there, to participate in it. And so one of the things that we really do try to encourage, no matter what level or how many years you've been involved in the pursuit of this interest, craft, whatever you want to call it, is from time to time, ask yourself, who are you? And this talent that I seek to express, does it feed me and bring me back to my peace, my nature, my beauty? And if the answer is no, then the next question to ask oneself is, what am I going to do about it? Because I can tell you life is too short. Life is very, very short. And for most of you who know us well, you know that we participate in hospice, we work with the dying besides the afterlife. We watch the aging and disease, and we watch the challenges. We were just we have just been recently in a few developing nations where there is still starvation and hunger, and there is still a lot of work to do. And we who are privileged in the West have our own challenges. And why I bring this up is for those of us who have the privilege of being in the West, our challenge is often the emotional self, the mental self that we have great challenge of. We have food in our bellies that we can often, for the majority of us in the West, can easily attain. But to actually find that place of peace within our own struggles, emotionally and mentally, can be difficult. And yet, that is the light that the medium is. You have the power to be where you are, to bring that reality home to the nature of those around you. And so we ask you to do that. We encourage you to do that. We ask you to be the peaceful warrior. Lay down the weapon. Reawaken your strength. Use the power to heal yourself. So the only tool that you use is your wisdom, the wise medium.
So, just giving you some thoughts, some ideas that we hope that have touched you, that have perhaps moved you. In some cases, perhaps irritated you. If we've done that, that's fine. But I believe we've got a little time now. So if any of you would like to ask questions, I believe Anita and Frank, if we've got time, anybody would like to ask a question?
Is there anyone who's having a question for these gentlemen?
That's okay. You're a wise group. we knew we were addressing a very wise group of people. So, any comments on it? Any thoughts of what we shared with you? I mean, how are you? Let's put it this way. Let's ask you a question then. How are you incorporating your spirituality, your mediumistic understanding, as Brian said, to find your peace? Any one of you would like to perhaps share or share with us what you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
you
know me. I saw you last July, of course, and the year before. For me, it's like what you said, Brian and Simon. Definitely, what you learned me is to change my mind. I find my passion as well, and through the passion, also the art and painting and whatever. It brings healing not only for myself but also to others. And for me, that's mediumship. It's all about.
Absolutely.
It's not about. Of course, you're standing on a platform sometimes.
Of course.
That's not the case. It's just bringing the joy and what's your passion from within that can actually heal yourself. And that's the most important thing. And I do agree, Brian, with you. You have to find your passion, because this is what real mediumship is all about. Because it's not just standing there or in the supermarket. By the way, have your mom or your dad. But in case it will happen. I don't believe in this kind of mediumship, because it's not mediumship. It's just a mediumship from within, from your own soul. And that's what you have learned a couple of years ago. So for me, I think that is a big change in my understanding why I'm here anyway. And of course, we all have our long journeys and our, whatever you mentioned, of course we have. But at a certain moment, it will bring you to, who am I? What is the question? Why I'm here? And then you start to find out who you really are. So, well, you know me.
Yeah. Great.
No, that's great. That's absolutely fantastic.
I think this is the thing. We've minimized the ability of the medium, thinking that it's just a message or just a healing. And yet your mediumship in the expression of the intuitive nature of your talents has an energy that emanates, vibrates. It is your aura. And one of the things that we often find lacking in the training in mediumship is the first thing that we were always taught was that everything is energy. And for those of you, have you ever walked into a room and know something is wrong?
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. Yet it doesn't matter if the room's usually peaceful or not. You know that something's up. That intuitive nature, that is you receiving and interpreting that energy. And that is one of the things that is often lacking in the beginning training of mediumship. But the most important thing about that I'm trying to point out in this discussion is that when you are in your passions, when you are healed, you are emanating that aura, that vibration of strength, of passion, of peace. And by doing so, even those who don't consider themselves intuitive sense something. You give them something. You see, the ability of an everyday medium is to emanate that energy. You may never speak to that person that you're walking by, yet you sense there's something wrong. And just that natural compassion of human nature emanates and touches them, surrounds them, embraces them in that energy, heals them. That's the power of you. And that is something that we need to get back to as mediums in everyday mediumship, is, as Yolanda just said, is that passion of art, of that passion of the love of what I'm doing emanates to her family. She still might battle with her partner and argue and fight and yell at the kids and the neighbor or whatever. But when we are fed within our and begin to return back to ourselves and have the bravery and the strength to be ourselves, especially in this understanding, we become more peaceful and we allow it to embrace. You know, I was brought up in a crazy family, which I'm very blessed to say. And one of the things that my parents would always say is if we had a problem, is we were always reminded that it was our problem.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had a problem with my brother or brothers, I would often hear, well, that's your problem. What are you going to do about it? And as much as I hated that as a child, I appreciated it as an adult, because I realized that what it did was give me a tool to try and find a solution, but also recognize when it's my problem or their problem. Yeah. And that is something I believe all mediums need to understand. Because, you know, we are natural fixers. We want everybody to be happy. We have a talent we want to share. We want to soothe pain. So we're like little E.T. We see pain and we go, heal. But oftentimes what we do is we just fix. We don't heal. We got to stop fixing and start healing, you see. And that's where the intuitive nature comes from, is to know whose problem is this? Can I serve and heal, or I'm going to run in and fix it? Because if I'm going to run in and fix it, it will never heal. It'll need refixing again and again. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so what we're encouraging you to do is also in your mediumship is stop being a fixer and become a healer. And we can only do that when we heal ourselves and go, is this my problem or is it theirs? And if it's their problem, do I have to make it mine? Or can I hold that space and be compassionate? If somebody doesn't like that I'm an artist or that I love to sing, or love to write, or love to cook, or love to look after children, or love to garden, and they hate it, whatever it is, that's their problem, not yours. And once you have that power, then you are fed the nectar of the gods. You drink of the cup that fills you up. And that energy helps them, whether they like it or not. Because sometimes when people don't like things, they need to awaken that it's not your problem, it's theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a medium does, you see, is to allow that space to see where the problem is and allow it to be healed naturally. But it takes you to be every talent that you are. So I guess what we're also saying is, and encouraging you and to give yourself permission, irritate the hell out of people. Be yourself.
Yeah.
Follow the talent that you've got. Be true. For the Creator is wise, for the Creator created you.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
Okay, there's another question. Diana.
Yes.
Hi. Do you
Hi.
feel that when you're with the mediumship and all the courses, because they're popping out like mushrooms during a monsoon rain, and it feels as if it's if there's this vibe of change moving more towards what you guys are talking about? Do you feel that that's where it's heading towards more, or is that?
I think what we've noticed is we've always been steadfast in our teaching. We haven't changed. We have not gone with the wind. We were participated in the mechanics 30 years ago at Stansted Hall. But we always made sure that there was a philosophical aspect to it. And what we're seeing is that many people who have or want to pursue it long term are now going, well, there must be more to this. And what we've actually seen or saw for especially the last 12 years is we've lost more people mediumistically than gained people mediumistically. You know, of course, most of you know Simon was at the hall for just over 30 years in total teaching. And just if we use that example, that's about 15,000 people on average who've gone through that. Where are the 15,000 mediums?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that suggests to us that there's something wrong within the teaching structure. Obviously there's a certain percentage that would not necessarily have the strength of ability of mediumship in that, of course. But we're also looking at what is the foundation that creates the long-term understanding of the medium who has a passion to serve within that a certain type of ability that most people understand mediumship to be today. And it's not really there. So when you say, are more people turning that way? Yes, I think there is, again, a rise in understanding of what it's really about. And of course, those of you who have been with us, you know, for years we've talked about you need to get past your eagerness and allow it to naturally transform into reason. Yes, I'm eager about this talent called mediumship, but what is the reason for my mediumship? And as you've also heard us say, for those of you who've been with us and for those of you who are new, yes, there is the mechanical aspect, the mind patterns, but what is the meaning of what I am doing? And we need to get to that meaning and that reason. Otherwise, you're going to be very disappointed with your talent and you'll leave it. And when we say to you that many people, if you like, left their talent, that is really sad to us. It is like somebody who is an artist, or is great with children, or a great parent, and doesn't see its value, and stops parenting or playing music or doing art, right? Mm-hmm. We need to hold the space to give them the understanding, and that is the legacy of of mediumship. There is a whole history, of where we come from. Everybody thinks it started in 1848 or spiritualism. No, your heritage, even in your country, roots back to the mystics of old. And so we're just needing to get back to that understanding. And it is more than just give me another tool for the mind to do, but rather give me the understanding. So that was a very long answer to a short question.
I think as well, so just because I know you've got a schedule here, so I don't want to take too much time up. So just tell me to stop speaking, Anita and Frank, when you're ready. But I think the biggest problem as well is today is so many people are no longer satisfied, and again, it's the way they've been taught, to just develop their mediumship. They then think they should become a teacher, which was never the point. It was never the point at all. And so, I mean, you're lucky in the fact that you're sat here and you found a place where you can belong, which is wonderful. There's a community there, which is fantastic. For Frank and Anita, that created that. But the great difficulty today is that so many people go to a workshop and they go, okay, I can teach that. You know? And then they set up their business and they're doing a workshop. And what we've got to get back to is to recognize, okay, so why are you doing this? Are you doing it to make money? If the answer is yes, then be honest. And go, okay, I'm doing this because it's my job. And just be honest in that. But don't wrap it up in some kind of spiritual vocation to say, well, actually, I'm here to serve the planet, when actually I'm trying to serve my bank balance, you know? None of this is good or bad, it's just honesty. But the biggest issue that we've got is, if you're going to teach this, what do you know? What are you going to teach? Because if all you're doing is teaching people to have some kind of paranormal experience, then you're creating a factory, which we see now around the world, where somebody who knows a little is teaching somebody else who knows even less. Mm-hmm. And so we're getting to a place now where it's almost like the bland leading the bland, you know? Yeah. We're just perpetuating ignorance. We're not passing on a religious or spiritual tradition here. And at the end of the day, this tradition that we come from is an ancient pathway to the Creator. It's an ancient form of awareness for the 21st century to ultimately bring you to a place where you can stand in front of the Creator. If you don't have that background, then mediumship, as it's advertised today, will not make you a happier person, because the techniques of mediumship will not make you happy. They will just create a greater sensitivity to your unhappiness. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's why you have so many mediums today, so-called mediums, running around teaching, that are very competitive, that are very angry, they're very unhappy people. Why? It's because they have developed the faculty without the understanding of developing the self. Yeah. And that's the problem that we've got today. And so Brian and myself have been teaching this for like many, many years now. And the whole point is develop self first. The phenomena will come afterward. But if you have no foundation in self, then there is nothing for the actual phenomena of your mediumship to actively sit on. And then all you're going to do is to be a very unhappy, very competitive person who has to be number one.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no number one.
No, exactly.
There's just us.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point of mediumship. Our job as mediums is to be forgotten, but the service to be remembered. But unfortunately today, it is I need to be remembered because I need to feel special. I need to be this great teacher that everybody knows who I am. Well, the only person that needs to know who you are is the Creator. And they already know who you are. So you're done. You're good. Because everybody else is going to forget you very, very quickly.
You don't think of William of Orange every day, do you?
No.
Right?
So there you go.
Yes.
So just have a peaceful life.
Thank you very much.
All right. Good.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Very
thank
much.
you.
I was just sitting in the corner listening. Thank you very much for this very inspirational talk. We really loved. You have a lot of food for thought, and as you said, there were almost no questions because everyone was still thinking of what you said, and that is a big round of applause for you.
Yeah, very inspiring. Yeah, we also would like to tell the people here that you have this wonderful book.
Yeah.
We have it here.
Oh.
Yeah.
So.
And
Thank you.
you were talking about the structure of mediumship. I haven't read it entirely yet, but I'm working on it. And but it's a real interesting book. It's called Musician to Mystic, a mediumistic path to a spiritual life. Can you add a little bit in a few words what it's all about for the people who haven't read it yet?
In a few.
Well, it's got some very good recipes. It's basically it's a book that gives a brief outline of where we come from. That we're actually part of a mystical spiritual path, foundation that's actually thousands of years old, not just 150 years old. And basically, it actually draws upon the mystical traditions of ancient mediumship for the 21st century. So it's also about how we can live our life. Many of the things that we talked about tonight with you and shared are within the book, obviously expanded somewhat. And also it gives you an outline or a background of why we develop our mediumship, not necessarily how we develop our mediumship.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And where can we buy it?
Amazon.
Amazon's probably the easiest.
Online, unless they do have it at the hall from time to time when they just ordered some more.
Yeah.
They sold out again. So.
But probably Amazon or any of the online booksellers I know in Europe have it as well. It's probably the easiest way to get it. And we do have them obviously here as well. So, but that's probably the easiest in the Netherlands.
Up to Canada, yeah. Okay, guys,
Okay.
thank you very much for joining us in our time for inspiration, and thank you so much. It's an honor.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Look after yourself. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.